We're often taught that the invention of agriculture was humanity's great leap forward. The story goes that our ancestors finally figured out how to tame nature, put down the spear, and start enjoying a comfortable, settled life. But archaeological evidence paints a very different picture. For tens of thousands of years, foragers lived incredibly flexible lives. They worked maybe a few hours a day gathering diverse foods, roaming expansive territories, and leaving plenty of time to socialize, tell stories, and simply rest. The human body spent millions of years evolving to climb trees after apples and sprint across the savanna after gazelles. We are built for dynamic, varied movement. Then we stopped. By tethering ourselves to specific plots of land, we traded our free time for endless, repetitive physical labor under the scorching sun. Early humans severely damaged their own bodies simply for the promise of an easier meal. When anthropologists look at the skeletal remains of early farmers, they don't find healthier people. They find an explosion of slipped discs, severe arthritis, and debilitating hernias. Our spines and knees paid the price for clearing rocks and hauling water buckets day after day. Plowing, weeding, and guarding crops from dawn to dusk quickly locked in as the inescapable standard of human existence for the next 10,000 years. Instead of liberating humanity, the shift to farming chained us to an exhausting, back-breaking daily grind. The dream of societal progress was, for the average peasant, an absolute illusion. This chart compares exactly what happened to human nutrition when we settled down. On the left, you see a diverse hunter-gatherer diet of berries, mushrooms, and wild game. On the right side, you see the agricultural reality, relying almost entirely on a single staple crop like wheat or rice, which severely lacks essential vitamins and minerals. By eating the same porridge for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, early farmers suffered from widespread malnutrition. Their immune systems dropped drastically compared to their nomadic ancestors. To make matters worse, people were now crammed together in permanent, densely packed villages. Without modern sanitation, these cramped quarters guaranteed frequent, massive infectious disease outbreaks. And because humans were now living side by side with domesticated pigs, chickens, and cattle, viruses could easily jump directly from animals into human populations. Our ancestors traded the open plains for permanent homes, and in return, they received weakened immune systems, chronic severe malnutrition, and sweeping epidemics. In the foraging days, if the local fruit trees dried up or a predator moved in, a tribe could pack up and walk a few miles to better territory. They were mobile, which meant they were adaptable. Early farmers completely lost that safety valve. Because they relied entirely on one or two crops in a specific location, a single bad rainy season or a passing swarm of locusts almost guaranteed starvation for the entire village. And when those crops actually thrived, bulging granaries created a massive target for raiding neighbors. If a village was attacked, fleeing meant abandoning their entire food supply. So they stayed, built walls, and died fighting over patches of dirt. The idea that farming provided a stable, secure food source is a myth. It introduced a deep structural fragility that kept entire populations perpetually teetering on the edge of total collapse. You might wonder why anyone would accept this deal. The truth is, nobody consciously chose to make their lives harder. The shift happened through thousands of tiny, seemingly logical micro-decisions, like clearing a few trees to let wild grain grow better, each meant to provide just a little more food. Looking at this map, we can see these exact same miscalculations cropped up entirely independently in isolated pockets all over the world, from the Middle East to Central America to China. The mechanism was a demographic trap. When early humans produced a slight food surplus, they didn't get more leisure time. They just had more children. That extra wheat suddenly had to feed more mouths, instantly wiping out the surplus and demanding even more labor. By the time the reality of disease, back-breaking work, and crowded villages set in, there was no going back. A farming village of 100 people couldn't revert to hunting and gathering because the surrounding land could naturally support only 10. 90 people would have to volunteer to starve. Humanity chased the innocent desire for an easier life, but that pursuit tripped a wire. We stumbled into history's biggest miscalculation, permanently locking our species into a grueling cycle of agricultural labor. Looking at the macro scale, the agricultural revolution was incredibly successful. Over thousands of years, those hard-fought surpluses eventually reached critical mass. Because peasants were producing more food than they could eat, society could finally support a tiny elite class of people who didn't have to farm. Kings, priests, artisans, and thinkers were fed by the masses. They invented written language, complex mathematics, and philosophy. Those ancient agricultural surpluses laid the literal foundation for every modern technological marvel we have today. The collective brainpower that eventually put humanity on the moon was fueled by grain harvested by millions of forgotten hands. The staggering technological triumphs of the human species were purchased directly with the immense daily suffering of billions of ancient peasants. Which leaves a massive contradiction. How can the agricultural revolution be our crowning achievement and most catastrophic tragedy at the same time? The answer lies in how biology measures success. Evolution doesn't care if an individual organism is happy, comfortable, or free from pain. The only currency evolution recognizes is the replication of DNA. Farming allowed Homo sapiens to multiply exponentially. We went from a few million scattered foragers to billions of people dominating the globe. We unquestionably won the evolutionary game, but we paid for that victory by sacrificing the daily quality of life for almost every individual. We gave up our autonomy, broke our bodies, and accepted rampant disease, all to multiply our genetic code. Looking back, you must ask who really got the better end of this deal. 10,000 years ago, humans didn't domesticate wheat. Wheat domesticated humans.